2022 student here at LMU-DCOM. So as she comes to the podium and sing, if we can just all rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
At this time, I would like to welcome Senior Associate Dean Dr. Michael Whiting to the podium for our invocation.
Join me, if you would, in the prayer of invocation. We gather here to honor those who not only have chosen medicine, but its practice in the service of our country. These individuals will be entrusted to a position of responsibility as a physician and a member of the community of healers of both our own warriors and possibly those of an enemy. God in heaven, you are our source of wisdom and understanding, and we invite you as our guest of honor at this event and ask your blessing on everyone in attendance, particularly those graduating. We are thankful for your guiding hand in all things. Grant them, while pursuing postgraduate medical training and throughout their lives, the additional essential knowledge and skills they will need to honor and serve you and their patients, and the wisdom to use that ability with discretion, critical thinking to ensure discernment, inspiration to create innovation, strength to provide endurance, compassion to provide empathy, and genuine caring to preserve and honor those they care for. We ask that you direct them, and by extension, those they will lead, in all the decisions they make, so that those decisions will begin and end with you. We ask for additional blessings upon those who at this moment are serving our country, anywhere that the service of our country may call them. A special blessing is asked for those who are standing watches in the face of danger and violence. Give them the courage and strength to withstand all enemies, physical and spiritual. Speed them safely home, and give their family and friends faith and comfort to ensure the absence incurred by their service. Also touch the hearts of the moms, dads, siblings, spouses, children, and friends of these who are about to graduate, and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us and our collective freedom. On this special day, when we recognize hard work and dreams realized with more to come, instill in these graduates pride in their accomplishment, but remind them they did not do it alone. Many helped along the way. May they ever be humble in their service and thank those people who helped propel them toward their dreams. May we all receive strength, courage, and inspiration as we serve our patients, the osteopathic profession, and our communities with honor and integrity. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Before we begin our festivities today, we will recognize our POWs and MIAs. We call your attention to this small table, which is reserved to honor our missing men and women. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs, our comrades in arms. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families today, so we join with them in this humble tribute. I will explain the meaning of this table, and then I ask that you join me for a moment of silence of prayer. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. This table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against an army of his suppressors. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single rose in the vase reminds us of the family and friends of our missing brothers who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase symbolizes our continuing uncertainty, the hope for their return, and our determination to account for them. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate, captured or missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us and those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us today. The chair is empty. They are not here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wallach. Well, good morning. We're going to go a little out of order with the program today. We're going to do the rank advancement ceremony first, and then I will kind of, keeping in mind that I don't want to stand between you and lunch, I will keep my comments following the ceremony nice and compressed to fit into the noon hour. So, thank you for your consideration in those changes. So I'm Chris Loihe. I'm a colonel in the United States Army Reserve Medical Corps. I'm also, for those of you who don't know, the Dean of LMU-DCOM. I'm here today to give special recognition to those LMU-DCOM graduates who will soon be entering active military service. These young doctors will today join the community of military physicians, a community founded upon the noble calling of sustaining the health of America's most treasured asset, the men and women of this country who served in our armed forces. These special people who wear our nation's uniforms, along with their families, endure untold and often unpredictable sacrifices to protect our nation and to defend our way of life. These graduates will be responsible to ensure the safety and health of our airmen and airwomen, our protect our skies, our naval forces serving at sea around the world, and our ground forces who could find themselves deployed to hostile lands and austere environments. To the military physicians who are entrusted with their care, our nation will expect the highest degree of professional conduct and competence, even if it requires performance under stressful or hazardous conditions that could pose a threat to their personal safety and well-being. These special graduates manifest the soul of medicine, professional excellence with a selfless dedication to the service of others. This afternoon, we will promote them from the rank of medical student to that of a young physician. The Army and Air Force graduates will be promoted from second lieutenant to captain. The Navy graduates will be promoted from ensign to lieutenant. Our graduates will also join fully the Medical Corps, which is a branch of the armed forces specific to physicians. For the Army and Air Force officers, this is recognized by a change in their branch insignia to the caduceus. In the Navy, the Medical Corps designation is the oak leaf with an acorn in the center. This designation recognizes the century-old tradition of oak leaves and acorns that have adorned the uniforms of officers at sea. As we begin the ceremony, I will order that Lieutenant Wallach read the order that promotes these officers. Following that, these military physicians will have their new ranks pinned on their uniform by special people in their lives. The pinning on of rank is a great honor in our tradition. Thereafter, I will have them all recite the commissioned officer's oath of office. Now, It's my great honor and privilege to preside over this ceremony and welcome them, our graduates, into the community of military physicians. So if I could please have the graduates come up to the front with whoever's pinning on. Family behind. Woman straight front. Left foot dress. Make a nice, look sharp. All right. Cover. Attention. Present arm. Order arms. Lieutenant Waller, publish the order.
Attention to orders. The Secretary of the Army has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and professional excellence of Benjamin Bob, Navy; Evan Crawford, Navy; Alex Dixon, Navy; James Fox Jr., Navy; Galen Golden, Navy; Brian Grubbs, Air Force; Benton Hurt, Navy; Sarah Jane Sutton, Air Force. In view of these qualities and demonstrated leadership potential and dedicated service to the United States Armed Forces, therefore advance from second lieutenant to captain and ensign to lieutenant, effective this date, 13 May 2022.
Lieutenant. Family lieutenant. Please. How are we doing? Almost? Ten. Cut. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
self-support, independent of the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
of the office on which I am about to enter.
of the office in which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, our newest medical corps members. You're not covered. Take your seats. Well done. All right. Well, I would like to thank Dr. Kick, Lieutenant Wallach, and the STEM Ops Club for allowing me the privilege to participate and oversee the ceremony today. To me, it's a great honor. This time of year is a busy year for deans, for medical schools. We have a lot of ceremonies, a lot of white coat events, award ceremonies. But I can tell you this ceremony is probably the most important to me for a variety of reasons. Thought a lot about what I wanted to say as a keynote speaker. I've done a number of these through the years. And I'm certainly not the most experienced military officer in this room. I'd like to recognize Dr. Swanberg, who is new to us, who is a retired colonel in the United States Army, who did 20 years of active duty service. And she's with us today. She's now the clinical dean at Knoxville campus, and we're delighted to have her. I put down on paper some thoughts, and I want you to keep in mind that these thoughts and opinions are my own. They do not represent the United States military or the Army, but merely the thoughts of, based on my experience both as a civilian family practitioner and a provider in the United States Army Reserve Medical Corps for the past decade. I recently finished a book written by Mark Hertling, who's a 3-star general, and the book was entitled Growing Physician Leaders. In this book, General Hertling describes his first assignment, his first command, after graduating from West Point. And he was assigned as a second lieutenant as a tank platoon leader in Europe back in 1975. I imagine back before most of you were born. It was a time when the Cold War with Russia was the major focus of the United States military. He recounts meeting his commander on the first day and then meeting his platoon sergeant, who proceeds to give him what he describes as some of the most important leadership advice of his career. And that advice started with, take your coffee black. Now, for those of you who know me, I love coffee. I drink a lot of it. I drink it all the time. I drink it pretty much dawn to dusk. So this message really resonated with me quite a bit. Through my career, I've drank it a number of different ways. Cream sugar latte, the whole bit. But I will tell you, as I've gotten older, I do drink coffee black. So what were some of the points the platoon sergeant was attempting to convey to second lieutenant, then second lieutenant Hertling? And I'll paraphrase it. Be serious about your work. Work hard, don't whine, don't be high maintenance. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing what Hertling wrote about the sergeant, he said, we're serious people doing serious work. We don't have a lot of time to waste on getting cream and sugar. We're not going to drive around with our tanks, so drink our coffee black. My youngest daughter, Christina, we call her Tia, is a captain in the Air Force serving as a family medicine physician. Like the officers here today, Tia went to medical school utilizing an HPSP scholarship. Tia deployed to Germany about 10 days ago, and she was first notified of her mobilization about 14 days prior to that. This left her just enough time to close up her apartment, drive home for a very impromptu going-away party, and pack. Now, this is not my first child to deploy. My youngest son, Danny, deployed twice with the Marines. He served in weapons company, infantry, the 2-8 Marines as a mortarman. So I said goodbye to Tia at a Hardee's located at a Love's travel stop on I-75 in Corbin, Kentucky. She was on her way back to Warner Robins from a family gathering in Cleveland, Ohio that I was unable to attend. I drove up from Harrogate to meet her on her way, and we had about 20 minutes to say goodbye as it was getting late and she still had a long way to drive. We spoke about deployment, military service, and I said the things you typically say to a daughter as a father who's leaving on an extended trip. I reminded my wife, Julie, her mother, that people are still vacationing in Germany, and this is not a combat environment, but you can see it didn't really make a lot of difference to Julie. Oftentimes you know things intuitively, but it still can be difficult to accept a situation that you find unpleasant. She had the same look on her face when Danny left, although this one was a little bit worse. Knowing that I was expected to give some sort of advice, some brilliant guidance based on my accumulated knowledge and experience, I really only told her to stay calm. Stay calm. Ironically, this is the same advice I've given to students, interns, residents, and physicians over the decades. Being emotional under stress is understandable and a normal response, but not typically very helpful. As difficult as it is for people like us to accept that things often do not go as planned, a level of uncertainty is constant. It's always essential to remain calm. In medicine, and certainly in the military, things often do not go as planned. Schedules are not followed, outcomes are not guaranteed. Things that were promised may not occur, and it's easy to forget that. I've sat in mobilization centers and watched officers, typically lieutenant colonels, 05s, commanders, lose their minds yelling at some staff sergeant because something didn't occur that they expected or that they were told was going to occur. Stay calm. Expect things not to go as planned, and most importantly, help those around you cope with this inevitability. I don't think the importance of being calm can be overstated. It's an essential leadership trait for both the military and as a physician. So back to Tia. She arrived in Germany. There was no traditional billeting provided for her. She was assigned to an abandoned high school, and her classroom will be her billet for the next 4 months. She has 3 roommates, all female captains. She was given a rollaway cot, no bedding, no pillow, and these were not included on her packing list, so she did not have them with her. There was no dining facility, there were no restaurants nearby. There was a convenience store 6 blocks away. There's a microwave down the hall, showers are located in the gymnasium. So I texted her this past Sunday, something called WhatsApp. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but apparently you can do international texting, fantastic. And I was asking her how it was going. I'd like to tell you her response, so I'm quoting. There's so much drama here. They are changing the bus schedule because we're getting 75 new deployers this week and people are losing their minds. I'm just sitting back and eating popcorn. So, not knowing my daughter, you have no way to appreciate the irony of this. But Tia has always been the princess of the family. Her slightly older sister was entirely different. Her older sister Ashley was like a guy. You know, she really didn't care much about doing her hair. She didn't care much about makeup. She threw her clothes all over the place. Tia was much more meticulous, and her sorority name in undergrad was Barbie. Low maintenance is not a term I would have used to refer to my youngest daughter, yet here she is, a champ. And she's going to be able to accommodate to this environment a lot more easily. So be low maintenance. We live in a culture that embraces consumption and often makes you feel you need certain things to get by. Often you will find yourself in an environment with limited resources. You may find yourself working weekends or holidays covering a large service of patients in a hospital with limited help, as is often what happens on weekends. You will amaze yourself at how well you will do with very little. Above all, you need to stay calm. Be brave. It's the rarest virtue in leadership, it is said. When I was graduating BOLIC in San Antonio, Texas, in August of 2012, there was a captain who was addressing our leadership class. And this captain asked each of us, as a personal favor to her, to risk our careers to do the right thing. She was speaking at that time about the 2009 Fort Hood shooting, where Major Hassan, an Army psychiatrist, killed 13 soldiers and injured 30 during an in-processing event at the base. A subsequent investigation revealed numerous red flags that were not addressed by Major Hassan's raiders, previous commanders, or colleagues. No one fully articulated in their evaluation of Major Hassan or raised awareness of leadership that there were issues. Ostensibly, no one wanted to speak up for fear of harming their career, and this captain was asking us to do the right thing, even if it means risking our careers. She felt this tragedy could have been avoided, and likely could have been. These situations are not unique to the military. One of the top state medical board issues for licensing sanctions is physician impairment. Are you ready to speak up if you suspect a colleague has an impairment issue? Or will you remain silent, take the easy way, and put patients at risk? Ask any medical board member how long it takes for physicians to be forced to get help. How many patients were harmed before someone, if anyone, spoke up? Just got some random thoughts. Take care of your soldiers. Leaders eat last. We never assigned a task that we would not do ourselves, and are last to take a break or retreat for the day. In residency, those subordinates are going to be your medical students. Take care of them, teach them, answer their questions, keep them out of trouble. Attempt to make them comfortable, treat them with respect, and treat them well. Never leave for home while they're still working. Don't abuse the authority. If you deploy to a combat zone, right now there are no deployments that I'm aware of in combat arenas, you will get, at least at this moment in time, a combat patch, hazardous duty pay, a variety of other extras, including awards. Being in a combat zone and being in combat are entirely different. An appropriate analogy would be the difference between riding the space shuttle into orbit and riding Space Mountain at Disneyland. Combat patches do not necessarily mean combat. Awards and ribbons are not necessarily a good measure of accomplishment or contribution of the individual wearer. I had a patient, his name was Ralph, first initial, last name Jay, and he was a staff sergeant in days during World War II. He's a B-24 pilot, a Liberator pilot. And back in the 90s, I took care of him. He's since passed away. And he would tell me all kinds of stories about his experiences in World War II. At this time, the Air Force was part of the Army. It was the Army Air Corps. He had told me a story about, he was flying, he called them jumps. He was doing a jump. Most of what he did was he would pilot these planes for supply. And he was doing a jump into Germany, and he was at an airfield, and he noticed the unit patches, the same unit patches of where same unit patches of his brother, who served in the infantry. So he asked around, and somebody directed him out to a field where he saw a soldier, a bunch of them collected, and one guy was leaning up against a fence post, so asleep. And he walked over, and they indicated that was his brother. And I remember Ralph telling me, he said, you know, I squatted down and I looked into my brother's eyes, and I didn't recognize him. He was covered in grime, he was filthy, hollow, lost a lot of weight. He'd really been through it. He said about 6 months later, he put on his dress, his Class A uniform, and went with the rest of the family to meet his brother who's coming home from the Army on a train. And he said at that time, in the Air Corps, you got medals for pretty much everything. Dangerous duty, as you know, if you know anything about history. In the early days of the Army Air Corps, B-17 duty, bomber duties was a dangerous duty. So you got a lot of awards and ribbons. He said he was approaching the train, he saw his brother get off the train with one small ribbon, and he had to take off his jacket. He said he could not bear to have his brother see him with all his ribbons, knowing what his brother's been through. So, be humble. Ralph told me that he never, to this day, ever wore his uniform around his brother. Not his dress uniform, and did not ever show his awards to his brother. Always take care of your soldiers. Say hello, be polite to everyone. Medicine and the military are team sports. Don't whine. Please keep in mind that no job is beneath you. You're walking across an LSA, pick up a piece of paper. It's not going to kill you to pick up a piece of paper. You're walking down a hallway and a nurse is struggling with a patient, help the nurse with the patient. Patient's trying to get out of a wheelchair, help with the patient. Help when you can. No job is beneath you. Pay attention. Please be 15 minutes late, but be 15 minutes early. Be 15 minutes early to everything. You know, this is a kind of a picadillo with me, and most of you already know that. You know, being late is disrespectful. You know, everybody's late occasionally. Being late chronically is disrespectful to the people you're keeping waiting. So please, you need to be on time. Be grateful. Keep in mind that you're here today in the greatest country in the world, serving in the greatest military in the world, and probably, my humble opinion, the greatest profession that there is. The people in this room help you get there. There are people who aren't in this room that help you get there. There are people you never met that help you get there. And a lot of these people live in history. So be grateful. Trust your NCOs, they're going to take care of you. Please stay physically fit. Goodness gracious. Meet your height weight. Pass your ACFT or your APFT or whatever they're calling it. Listen carefully. And oh yes, take your coffee black. This concludes my presentation. It is 12:01, 12:02. I apologize for going 2 minutes over. And Mr. Arnold, are we ready for lunch? All right.
Thank you, Dr.